I just pulled over into my favorite boat ramp and pulled right into the middle of a sheriff's office speed trap and was blocking his radar gun, trying to set up our podcast. Because I pretended like I didn't see him. He's pretty dark, but I'm not that blind. He's back in the woods.
Well, you're sounding better. At first, it sounded like you were farting out of an igloo.
On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, ThunderBeast, do we curse too much? The Wilson EXperior, and the MAGA hat hate crime.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Danny, Marky, and Freeze, and this is episode 187 of the John1911 Podcast. And how's everybody doing this evening on a nice Friday night?
I'm doing great.
Wet.
It's your off week, right? It's wet. Oh, did it rain up there in Chicago?
All kinds for the last 3 days.
I'll tell you what, we had the most glorious day today on the range. It looked like it was going to rain. It was overcast, and I'm literally like, it's going to rain any minute. And I checked the radar, and there wasn't rain within 400 miles.
I'll tell you what, this
is crazy.
This is a great day. I mean, it does almost feel like rain, but there's no rain around. You know?
Yeah,
it's really
breeze. Yes, breeze, 72 degrees. It's been like probably the nicest day of the year. I mean, like probably since the spring that I can recall. It's September 11th. So
yeah, I agree. I'm actually sitting out on my back deck right now instead of being on the computer because it's just such a nice evening.
Sure, I understand that. So, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to broach the first subject here, and we're going to we're not all prepared for it because I'm driving and. You know, we were kind of live today doing stuff, but we got an interesting message on YouTube that blew my hair back, and I don't think Freeze has seen it, and I never considered this possibility. So a guy rolls in on YouTube on a podcast, and he compliments the podcast, and he says he didn't know how to exactly say it. His name was Jason Croft. I can't read my own writing. But Jason left a message, and he said, I don't have a problem with bad language, but he goes, it does make it difficult to listen to a podcast at work if it's repeated bad language. And I was like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a language problem?
I don't.
No, I'm a Puritan.
Well, no, I have a language problem. Does the podcast have a language problem?
Look,
should we make an effort to clean it up?
Okay, so here's my stance on it. Yeah, I have been known to use, shall we say, off-color language on occasion, but that's me. You know, I cuss like a sailor. However. I do think that maybe we should be a little bit more cognizant of the language, but I'm not going to take one guy's. I'm not going to change the whole structure or change the way I am just because one guy makes a comment. Not saying that the comment's not valid or relevant, but I don't think we have a serious language problem. We do use some, we do cuss, but it's not like it's every other word either.
Well, I will say this. I'm number one, I'm impressed that Freeze even is open to the concept of maybe trying to be a little bit more commercial, yet still authentic. Number two, I will say I curse just as bad as Freeze.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing.
Life. I was cursing let me tell you this story. I was cursing so bad in front of these Army guys and in front of this colonel that my boss got a complaint, and my boss had to tell me to dial it back a little bit because my cursing was making the Army guys tense. And I was like, and it's not the first time I've received that complaint. And here's the thing too. With the podcast, this is not the first feedback I've had that I just don't share them all with you guys that, I, Marky, might be using too many curse words to get to a period. Thoughts?
Well, I have one thought. I have no problem with being, well, it's not politically correct. Let's just say correct with our language. But I also agree with Freeze. We don't want to go to the point to change who we are.
Well, I can't change who I am, but I'm willing to concede maybe the possibility. Maybe I should try to personally. I don't expect it from you two, but maybe I should try to personally not use more than 3 curse words in any one sentence.
Okay, I mean, I get that, but I don't want to buckle under to the Carrie Nations of podcast language either.
Well, now hold on. This is your guy. He was just talking about work, and so think about that. Because I don't have a real job. I've never really worked for other people. Like, I've always just done what I wanted. I've always been the boss. I've never had to think about, since I was in high school, punching into the time clock and sitting around and having to be accountable to somebody else. And a lot of my.
Look, here's the thing. I
do most of our listeners listen to pod at work?
Well, I don't know. I guess, if you had a job like Danny where you were on the road, I guess you could. I couldn't with my job.
You mean you wouldn't play the pod over the loudspeakers?
No,
and let the public hear it.
But some jobs I'm sure you can listen to pods at work. Some I'm sure you can't. Like, I couldn't at my job. But also at my job, I can't cuss like a sailor either. So I do know how to dial it back. But when we're 3 together on a podcast talking, I'm being myself. And, when I get wound up on a subject, sometimes the words come a-flying.
Well, I agree. If I get wound up, the words come a-flying. But I'm going to personally try to, I don't know, just not use more than 3 curse words in a single sentence. However, it would be hilarious if we could find out that Jason, when he's at work, is putting in 40 hours a week at the sex doll.
Yeah, well, but on the other hand, Jason could also be a Quaker.
He
could be a
Jason.
Quaker or a Mennonite.
No. Well, hold on. I have a data point on Jason. He made a couple points. He liked the podcast. He said it was very interesting. He mentioned the cursing is a little tough. The amount of cursing, not cursing, but the amount of cursing at work. Then he said, you're going to like him for this, Freeze. He goes, I wish there was more information on the SIG 10 millimeter. I doubt there's a Quaker out there inquiring about a SIG 10 millimeter. Make his hat fall off.
Good point.
The SIG.
So maybe the sex doll factory, maybe only 3 curse words per sentence. Freeze. Or Marky. We'll let Danny go. He doesn't use his quota.
I'm thinking it's because a lot of us have spent time in the ghetto area, and maybe it's just part of our heritage or whatever it is, and it's hard to separate.
Well, there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth to that, because in the areas that I work in, you do kind of have to conform to the people in the area. And, they're not Puritans in the neighborhoods I work in.
No. Maybe it's the when in Rome theory.
Well, very early in my career, over 20 years ago at this point, I made the observation, personally, working in the ghetto, there were a couple of pretty big throwdowns that started off with words, and I came to realize that my language was not salty enough to convey with credibility the level of pain I was about to drop on.
Stop, Marky.
I deliberately.
There's one word. You have one more sentence for 2 more.
There's one, but hey, per sentence. But I made a deliberate effort to really salty up my language because I needed to professionally, because it was causing drama. Because people thought I was weak because I was too polite, and that politeness caused me. And it's a bad habit that
I was just going to bring that up. In the ghetto, being nice and polite is a sign of weakness.
It is.
You know, and a lot of people who don't interact in the ghetto or with people in the ghetto on a day-to-day basis probably don't understand that. But you can be nice, but not okay.
No, you can't be. I mean, you can't. You can be
nice, but you can't be polite. If that makes sense. If I'm at
yes, that's exactly the word and phrase I was.
If I'm at a formal event and I'm being nice and polite, you can still be nice in the ghetto, but you can't be polite. You know, you got to be salty as hell. But being salty doesn't mean you're mean and nasty either. You can still be nice.
It's the difference between saying you're welcome and doing somebody a solid.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Very true. So I tell you what. So Jason, I will tell you this. I will say this personally. I very rarely get feedback or comments that I truly am like, damn, I never thought about it like that. And I've thought about this comment. I came in earlier today. I noticed it earlier today on the September 11th, and it's crossed my mind. I'm like, you know what? Good comment, good feedback, Jason. I'm thinking about it. I mean, we're never going to be, whatever PG, but I could. It doesn't have to be on 11.
Yeah, well, you know what though? I mean, we'll never be PG. I mean, that's just not going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, I'm not PG kind of person.
Yeah.
But you know what? I can try to be PG-13 instead of R.
Okay. So topless but not bottomless. So that's the name of the podcast. By
topless,
the way.
Not
topless,
bottomless.
but
okay.
not bottomless. So we are officially now like a strip club that can serve liquor.
So we got nipple tassels.
So we have nipple tassels. Holy crap! So I was at the range today. I don't know what's like someone's playing. People are playing music here. I'm driving through one of the small towns. Oh, there's a band and a fire truck. Driving out the range today, and Doc. Good day, lots going on, and Doc was out with his Scar 20, and he's pretty much got that gun squared away within reason. I'm not as enamored with the Scar 20 as I was just watching it. There's
$18,000 later, that thing's running like a champ.
Well, there's a new issue that has popped up, and I can't help but wonder if it's Scar 308 or Scar 17 rated. So Doc is got a lot of feedback from a lot of the SWAT guys as far as what suppressor to get. So Doc had never purchased a suppressor, and instead of getting a silencer co-harvester, which is a lightweight kind of hunting, suppressor, for precision rifle too, but it's not a machine gun rated suppressor. He went and got this super duper fancy. It's a ThunderBeast. It's a suppressor made. It's not if it's called the ThunderBeast or if the company's called ThunderBeast, but it's $1,000 suppressor. It's solid titanium. It's probably machine gun rated. I know there's some. I remember this was being bandied about. I think maybe even the Secret Service guys maybe were running them. As I recall, I could have been incorrect. Sorry, Secret Service. So bottom line is, Doc has this on his 20, and it's got this muzzle. It's a muzzle brake that he screws onto his rifle, and then it's got the brake, and then behind the brake is threads, and then behind the threads are a shoulder. So it screws on. It doesn't QD onto this muzzle device. It threads on, kind of like the Blazer's direct thread. Well, long story really short, he gets between about 9 and maybe 14 rounds, and that thing starts walking, and his shots start going off. And that was a contributing factor to some of the accuracy issues he was having. And today, it was just, he's on, okay, let's go out. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, he's missing 6 inches. He's missing, it's high, shots high, right, high. Doc, check your suppressor. Fuck, it's loose. And it just and we got to a point, he actually had come out to the range with a torque or a strap wrench and strap wrenched it down. And I'm just
see, that's
it's
not
a cluster.
good. That's
it's a
not
cluster
good at all.
Yeah, and I don't know if we were looking at it, and I don't know if it's threaded on. It's not a QD device. I used to run threads. I don't really have any problems.
Is there room for like a locking nut?
No, what it is it you thread it and then you keep threading it and it comes. Oh, then it goes into a shoulder, like a 9-degree shoulder, a tapered shoulder. So it should be staying in place.
I have a question about that. When you put on a suppressor, aren't you supposed to change your grained ammo because of the amount of gas it emits after that, and for back pressure and things like that?
Not your grainage, but it does increase the gas pressure in the system. If it is it increases the gas pressure. Like, it would not be uncommon on a bolt gun. Let's say you shooting or load like a 308 and you're 2650 feet per second, on your chrono for your 308 ammo, and you stick a suppressor on and you get 2750. And that 100 feet per second can make a difference out at 700 yards or 800 yards. And it can also make a difference on how quickly your action cycles and or unlocks, which can cause residual issues. So you will have a lot of guns, if they're suppressor friendly, they will have a normal gas setting and then a suppressor setting. And what that does is it will turn the gas down a little bit. It restricts some of the gas to keep.
Well, that's why I was asking. Is maybe that why his shots were 6-inch off center?
No, because they're on when he's running, and he runs the suppressor and work the loads up with the suppressor full time. And hey, Freeze the Pirates Den is busy. The suppressor full time, but it just all of a sudden it'll start being off, and you check that suppressor and it's walked. But there's another data point. SCAR 17s, I don't know if it's true for SCAR 20s, but they're both 308 SCARs, have a reputation for having such heavy vibration that they break scopes. And that was an early complaint about the SCAR 17, is it was breaking fragile or less than robust rifle scopes. And I can't help but wonder if maybe there's a more heavy vibration and it's even affecting his suppressor.
Something's making it walk, and I mean, vibration is the first thing that would come to mind.
Of course, on recoil. But and here's the other thing: I was looking at how it attaches, and one thing I noticed about Doc is one of these guys. Doc's a PhD engineer. He's a very technical guy. He cleans his stuff religiously, which is great. But if you look at his threads and his mount, his device, and that shoulder, that tapered shoulder, it's all clean. And I was like, Doc, maybe you should think about fouling up this gun, letting it stay. Yeah, let that stay cruddy. But then the thing is, put your suppressor on, but then when you're done shooting, take it off while it's hot. Because if he leaves it on and it's cruddy, he may not get that thing off.
Well, can he thread this suppressor directly onto his barrel, or does he have to use this
I believe he has to use this device. Now, I don't know. I don't know what his pitch is on his SCAR. I can look it up. I actually offered to find out what his thread pitch on his SCAR 20 was, and to buy an insert for my harvester, my Silencer Co. harvester, because it's got inserts for thread pitches. And I know the really, really cool suppressor guys don't like that because the tolerances, but you know what? It's pretty handy for what we do. It's fine. And I thought maybe I could get an insert that matches his thread pitch. We could put my suppressor on his SCAR direct thread, shoot it, check it at 10, 14, and 20 rounds.
That's what I would do. No, I mean, seriously, that's what I would do. Because it could be this, whatever muzzle device at threads onto the barrel that the suppressor threads onto. You said it's like a brake almost.
It's weird. It's like this little brake, and then it's got threads, and then it's got a tapered shoulder behind the threads, which I don't know if that's the. I mean, I guess I don't know.
I don't know. It seems to me the more Legos you attach to the tower, the more wonky it gets.
Well,
yeah, but I don't know why. I don't know if the suppressor is designed to run with this device. Because it's not a QD. I was surprised because I didn't realize initially, because I haven't really paid, I can't pay attention to everybody's gun, but I know he had a device on there, a muzzle device, and I just thought it was some kind of like click, or like it was something. I'm like, why work this hard for this suppressor to still end up direct threading it on anyway? And I don't know, maybe the shoulder. So anyway, he said he was going to call ThunderBeast or whomever makes this thing on Monday and speak to him about it. And so, he doesn't want to say anything bad about the company. Just maybe there's something, maybe it needs to be set back a little bit more.
It's hard to say. It could be a number of things. Hopefully they'll get it worked out, because I hate to see it. I hate to see $1,000 suppressor basically get benched because, it doesn't work on that gun.
Yeah, and Doc is 73 years old. He's a retiree, and not that he's poor, because he certainly is not poor, but $1,000 to a guy on a fixed income retired, that's no good. So what I thought, I didn't mention to him because I wanted to see what happened, and he doesn't listen to the podcast, so he'll never know this. Some of the SWAT guys do though, so don't say anything. I'm going to watch this, and if for some reason it works out that that suppressor isn't really working out in his favor for some reason, I'll buy it off of him and stick it on one of my guns, and I'll give him $1,000 for it, and then he can go buy something else. And here's the thing: he can keep that suppressor while we're all waiting for the transfer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we're all together. It's like, whatever. I'd have to see how direct transfer from him to me would go. If it probably have to be.
I'd say let's not get in front of the cart yet, or in front of the horse, as the saying goes. We'll see what Thundercats or I don't know.
Thundercats.
Oh
my God. It's not 1985.
Isn't it a cartoon?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a cartoon from the
80s. We'll see what those guys have to say, and and it might just be something really stupid, stupid simple.
It might. I hope it is, because Doc is like Doc Scar 17. Here's the thing, Doc Scar 17 that thing was a beast. Like that, it did everything you could expect of it. It did it all. And the 20 came out. He didn't need the 20, but he liked the stock on the 20 and thought it was more ergonomic and more comfortable. So he was like, I'm going to sell my 17 and get to the 20. And I cannot help but feel that every time he's at our range, it's like, oh man, the Scar 17's fucking falling apart again. Or Scar 20. It's falling apart.
That seems to be the case. He's had more trouble with this 20 than honestly, I'll be honest with you. He's got a heck of a lot more patience than me. I'd have thrown that goddamn thing in the river a long time ago.
Well, he's kind of like you. He likes projects, but he likes he will work up loads to solve problems. He will tinker with guns to get them running.
I get that. I'm a tinkering guy myself. I love to tinker. I will make things work. And where you're just like, screw it and go buy a new one, I'll make it work. I get that philosophy because I'm that way. But there's a certain point in time where it's just like, you know what?
Don't say it. Don't say it. I know what you're going to say. No cussing.
Well, okay. No, I'll give you an example. No. I'll give you an example. On the AR pistol, How long did I fiddle with that freaking Bushnell red dot before I just said screw it and went out and got a Vortex? You know?
Frying pan into the fire comment, but
no, I screwed with that for the better part of a year before it's just like, you know what?
You were invested in the idea of a super, as you said, cheap. I'm a cheap bastard red dot, and you were super invested in that concept. You did not want to let that go.
When I started that project, my whole thing is I'm going to build an AR pistol for under $500. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. And yeah, I got it right around $500 with, without the optics. But a $500 budget build isn't a $500 budget build if you spend $400 to $500 on optics. After messing with this thing for a year, it's just like, no, I'm done. The red dot's on the shelf, and and I've got an LVPO scope on it now, which honestly, you get something in your mind, that's the way you feel it needs to go. I should have put the LVPO on it from the start.
Did you ever get that thing to work, Freeze?
Well,
What's that?
Did you ever get that gun to run?
The pistol?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think runs like a beast.
Yeah, yeah.
It's completely done finally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's done.
It's ready for the coming Civil War. I mean, he's got that gun. He's got that gun running.
Speak about Civil War. Did you see that trick question Freeze tried to get me on of the Civil War gun?
No, but let me give you guys a story about Doc that came up today, just to give you an example to the extent that Doc will. His abilities and his tolerance to solve problems. So, Doc shoots a lot. Doc can legitimately shoot out barrels. He just replaced the barrel on a 300 Win Mag. I think he's been running that barrel about 20 years. It finally gave up the ghost. He just replaced it. Got it back like 2 weeks ago. He's been talking about an AR. He's like, oh man, my I think it's his 20-inch AR or something. Or I don't know what it is. But I can't remember which one it is. But he's like, yeah, I think the barrel might be going. I think it might be shot out. Today, he's like, hey, remember my barrel, my AR? I'm like, yeah. I think he was shooting 77 grain ammo. I don't remember what grain ammo he was shooting in that gun. Well, anyway, he started working up loads and worked up a lighter. I don't know if it was a 62 or 69 grain load, but he's got this hand load, and that barrel was now shooting super tight groups again. He's like, hey, barrel's still good. Shooting lighter. And it's just like, most people would just rip it out, but no, Doc will load to the barrel. He will not swap barrels.
Hey, you know what? It's cheaper to work up a new hand load than it is to work up a new barrel.
Yeah, that's just how he is. So, okay, so what's this trick question about the Civil War? What do you
have to go to Freeze on that. He posted a picture, and for you and I to guess, and Freeze, you take it from there.
Okay, so in our group text, I posted a picture of the next Remington that I'm going to do a video on. And for the listeners, it's not the next Remington video that's coming up, but it's the next Remington video I'm going to shoot. It's a Remington new model belt pistol, and they made them from 1863 to 1875, maybe something like that. And
so this is different than the Remington gun you shot on video today.
Yeah, that's a rolling block. This is a 36 caliber revolver. Okay, which is it's interesting. It's got a 3-digit serial number in the 500 range. It's got a fluted barrel, and they only made about production. First off, they only made in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 5,000 of these pistols to begin with. But they're saying the fluted barrel models were made between 1863 and 1865, and they only made 3, 4, maybe 500 of them. They didn't make very many of them. But I posted a picture on there and I said, can anyone, tell me what makes this gun so awesome? Danny actually came up with the answer. I accused him of Googling it, but he told me how he came up with it. And, and it's like, well, that was very observant. But the interesting...
Was this in the group chat today?
Okay. Well, the thing that makes this gun interesting is it was, like I said, it was made between 63 and 65. And it's an SADA gun. Really? Now they
had single action, double action.
They did indeed. The interesting,
holy cow.
And the thing is, they did make single action only models, but they made. Obviously they made single action models. That was the flavor of the day. But this gun looks like a Remington 1858. It looks very similar in design, but it's a Remington Rider, because Rider did the design. He developed and patented the double action on the whole thing. But it's got a 6.5-inch barrel instead of the long barrel like the 1858s, and and it is 36 caliber. And they did actually make a rimfire conversion, so you put a different cylinder in there as well. But this is
that's cool.
This is the percussion model. It doesn't have the conversion cylinder or anything with it, but it's this thing is really, really neat. Now it's a percussion revolver with percussion nipples on it, so I don't, you don't want to click it because every time that hammer falls.
Hey, now you said nipple. You've only got 2 more words.
It's got pasties on it. No. But if you dry fire the gun without a cap on it, it can deform the edge of the nipple. You don't want to dry fire a cap and ball revolver. But you can pull the trigger. It's not a light trigger pull. It's not smooth. It's not like butter, but yet you can. As fast as you can squeeze that trigger, that hammer will work.
So this is a gun that's from that estate for the family that you're kind of helping them settle. How are you almost done with these guns, or are there a lot more still to come?
There's more to come.
So it's fair to say there's going to be more guns coming through. You're going to be doing videos on through the first of the year.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, in my office right now, I have what I have on site from this estate, because I don't have them all. Because I'm like, give them to me in batches, because you can get super overwhelmed real quick.
And there's a lot of value there.
A lot of value. Right now, I have an 1860 flintlock musket, and I'm sorry, an 1816 flintlock musket. I've got
1860.
Yeah, it's a Mexican War era. I think the manufacturer date on it's like 1824, I think, off the top of my head. But anyway, I've got a percussion pistol that almost looks like a dueling pistol. I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to it. I've got a rolling block rifle, and I've got two.
What caliber is the rolling block rifle?
I have to bore gauge it because none of them are marked. And I've got two.
I was wondering if I was going to buy it.
Maybe. I've got two Springfields that are that have the 1866 trapdoor on them. They're not, they're 1861 Springfield rifles that we converted to the trapdoor. After the war. One of them's got a bayonet.
That's cool.
And then, of course, there's the rolling block pistol videos, which haven't been released yet. So
they'll go up. probably tomorrow. It's 9 o'clock
Yeah.
on Friday night. The rolling block pistol will probably go on Saturday.
So I mean, there's a lot there that I'm sitting on right now. Plus,
Wow, I didn't realize that.
and then when I give dispatch back, more to come. This is a huge estate.
Yeah. So when you get done with the batches, is he taking, or the family taking them to Cowan's after? I mean, because I know, because we're not liquidating them, we're just helping assess them. And I know there's an auction house. There's a pretty big auction house in Cincinnati. It's very well known. Ian McCollum never goes there, but it's a nationally known firearms auction house called Cowan's. And they've been moving.
Yeah, he has liquidated a lot of the 1875 and 1890 revolvers through Cowan's. The Derringers he's sitting on, the Derringer videos I did, he's actually sitting on those right now because he's not sure exactly what he wants to do with them. I know he's going to keep a couple of them.
Is there a market for those Derringers, Freeze?
Oh man, there's a huge market for them. There's
collectors. Danny, check this out. So Freeze has this super fan. We occasionally get inquiries from guys on the website, and they're interested in these guns that Freeze is doing. They're higher end collectors. But there's this guy that's been popping up for a few weeks, and he's in France. And he sent this email, I don't know, a couple days ago. This thing was like 2 pages long, talking about Remington Beals revolvers and military markings. Yeah. And English is not his first language. And I'm just like, I just sent it to Freeze. I'm like, hey, you read this. If you need to respond to it, or if he's just talking, or if he has a question, you figure it out. I'll send it to him.
Well,
Freeze's guns, these guns get a lot of traffic.
I have not read the email yet because honestly, I've been busy dealing with the rolling block pistols and I just haven't really had time to kind of sit there and decipher what he's saying. I'll get to it here in the next day or so, but and I'll get a response. I did a brief rundown and some of the things. Look, the guy's obviously knowledgeable with the Remington Beal.
Yeah, the guy in France. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Some of the stuff he was saying in the email, it's like, yeah, that's totally wrong. Not wrong, but wrong for this gun. He's making observations off the video and still pictures. But then again, some of the things he was saying, was like, yeah, well, that's definitely correct, And look, I don't profess to be the expert on Remington Beals. This guy obviously knows more about them than I do, Well,
I remember being in France some years ago and kind of looking at the gun scene, and I remember finding a gun store, and they had a lot of, I don't know how the gun laws quite work in France, but a lot of this older stuff is legal to own in France. And so the collector's market, if you're into guns and, being able to shoot them and do stuff, this category of firearm is available to you. And so it's nothing to go into a gun store in France and to find Remington Beals under glass. Because it's kind of like what they all trade in. Remington, I'm giving a unique example, but to find old cowboy, what I call cowboy guns, powder guns,
and how many
guns.
flintlock and percussion pistols are floating around Europe? I mean, they made them for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
I've got the oldest gun that I own is, well, you've seen it. I've got it mounted on the wall in the bar. It's a flintlock pistol. It's got a French Michelet lock that's about between 400 and 500 years old. It's got a Belgian barrel. It's got an English stock. I mean, it was cobbled together, but that's what they did hundreds of years ago before mass production, look, if you have to make a gun, you got
Sure.
a pile of broken guns. It's like, do you start from scratch or do you grab barrel from here, lock from here, carve out a stock and make it all fit and work? That's how gun makers did things.
Hey,
unless they were making from scratch.
Sure. I mean, like, if you're in the hinterlands, even in like, I don't know, 1750, there, you had, the advent of like the Industrial Revolution and manufacturing in the bigger cities and artisans. But if you're out in the middle of like, the Virginia colony and you're not near the coast, you're over the mountain in like what would be modern day Kentucky or Tennessee. Yep. I mean, you had to make shit by hand if you didn't have it. I mean, so if you found something, that was a big.
Oh yeah,
go ahead.
You break a gun. That gun doesn't get thrown away. That gun gets set aside, and then you break another gun. You might, you take parts and you make it work. That's just the way things were.
Mm-hmm. Guns back then were like work trucks today. They never died. They lived forever. So I'll tell you what, we're going to go into the cursing part of the podcast because we're going to start talking about politics. So, Danny, I have spent almost the entire day today either in the gym, in the armory, or on the range. So I have not seen any news. I'm driving right now. I haven't even listened to anything or checked my phone. We're doing this podcast. I heard a blip of something on AM radio today. Are we looking at crazy ass Democrats wiping more phones?
I had heard that. I don't know if there's any substance to it or not, but I basically heard just the offshoot of what you did.
Like, is it the guys from the Mueller investigation, the Russia investigation? They have now wiped like 9 or 15 phones.
That's what I heard. I want to look into. Of course,
that's not shady.
No, it's not. But getting back to the political scene, today, of course, is 9/11. Well, Trump spoke where the plane went down in Pennsylvania. Biden spoke in New York City, and of course, he was flanked by Cuomo and what's her name, Hildebrand, the senator from there. I can't think.
Right.
Kristen Hildebrand. He was flanked. Yeah. Right.
Kirsten.
That's what it was.
Kirsten.
He was flanked by those two, and it was actually sickening because they made it more of a political point than a memorial point.
Were they called out on it?
Just from listening and reading between the lines, you could tell where it was going. But the best quote of the day is what Biden published. The wildfires out in California and Oregon are Trump's fault.
Of course they are.
I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
Did you see that freeze, what I'm referring to? If not, I'll explain.
Yeah, I did. But, look, the crazy thing is, it's like these crazy Democrats, they're just making shit up. And the sad thing is, there's a certain group of people that will believe it.
Yep. They throw anything to see what sticks.
Okay, so, Danny, who was the... was it a governor that built the electric fence around her house?
Yes, the Michigan governor.
Yeah, the governor of Michigan. So
Whitmer, she built an electric fence around her house.
Around her house.
Around the governor? No, around the governor's mansion on state property.
Yeah, and of course, Trump's border wall. See, here's the crazy thing about that. Michigan is really in play. She's
as amazing. I
know. Seriously, she okay. Two things about Michigan: it shouldn't be in play, but the more she carries on, the more she's pushing Michigan towards Trump. But on a same but separate note, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Biden had a meeting with like in Detroit with a bunch of UAW people, which, that's not surprising. However, not once did they pan the crowd, and when everyone clapped, it literally sounded like there was 20 or 30 people there. I mean, it wasn't like, it was just kind of noticeable, and it's like, wow, there's not that many people there. Now, you can blame COVID, but look, this is the UAW coming in to listen to the Democratic presidential candidate. There's usually a pretty large crowd.
I'm trying to think, who's the president of the UA? What's that guy's name? The UAW.
I don't know. Comrade.
He's a communist. He's
Stalinovsky.
got a big bushy. No, but he's got a. But if he tells his brothers to show up for Biden, they're going to show up.
These are auto workers, dude. They don't care about masks. They don't care about social distancing. These guys, these are, they're auto workers.
Well, it's becoming clear to the UAW guy, if you're a guy working in the Rust Belt, you don't have to be a prognosticator of the Beltway to come to the conclusion that China wants Biden to win and they want Trump to lose because of all the trouble that Trump has been giving China on trade and jobs and trade deficits and cheating on NAFTA. Because they're like, what's China have to do with NAFTA? China was dumping shit into Mexico to get it in cheaply in NAFTA. Like they were dumping aluminum in Mexico. We reported on that a couple years ago. It was just like, that's it. If Trump can carry Michigan, that means he doesn't have to carry Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Since you brought up aluminum, remember how we were talking about the aluminum shortage?
Yeah.
I got to thinking, I wonder if that has anything to do with Ford truck bodies. If Ford's buying up all the aluminum to build their truck bodies, maybe that's part of what's causing the shortage.
Is Ford switched their truck bodies?
Yes, in 2015, they switched to aluminum bodies.
Because I'm driving a Tundra, and this thing's got real thin body panels, and I'm sure this is probably...
No, it's steel. Right? It's just thin, shitty steel.
Oh, okay. Okay. Freeze hates my truck.
Hey, I'm just that you got rid of the penis cars and actually bought a truck. So.
You mean my little sports cars? And so when I first met Freeze, I used to only drive sports cars, and I miss my sports cars. So that's why I'm looking for a Shelby Cobra.
Hey, getting back to the politics and something ironic, the governor of Michigan has an electric fence built around the mansion. The mayor of Portland is moving. In Chicago, Larry Leadfoot has the police close a street to where no one can get to her house. So my point is, those Democrat mayors and governors that were supporting this whole riot protest thing are now trying to be twice removed.
Yeah.
Sure.
I also.
Did Rochester, New York, their entire command staff just resign?
Right.
Yes.
And so did same in Dallas. They fired the chief.
Well, no, I think it was just the chief, the woman. She's from Detroit originally. Speaking of which, check this out. Here's an interesting. So the police chief in Detroit, the police chief in Dallas, she's originally from Detroit, and she took the police chief job in Dallas. And before a lot of this started, do you guys remember there was a shooting, and it's terrible. Amber Geiger, she's a Dallas police officer, and she accidentally went into
the wrong apartment.
I can see it.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to remember his name. Boyd Jean or Botham Jean? Botham. Gene Botham or Botham Gene, his name. But anyway, she went to the wrong unit. Well, and she was convicted, and you can't go into somebody's house and shoot them dead and not. It's just there's so much negligence and culpability there. It's a tragic accident. I remember Botham Jean's family, the brother was like, "I forgive you," in court. I was like, "Oh my God," we're all crying. But she's going. But anyway, there's been a development in that case. She's a Dallas police officer, and it was one of the things that was really, it was the big drama that was hitting this police chief. Amber Geiger, Botham Jean's family, they've obviously suing her. They're suing the Dallas Police Department because she, she was tired. She worked a long shift. She lived in one of these ant farm apartment complexes. And she parked on the wrong floor, went to the wrong floor in the garage, so she subsequently walked on the wrong floor. All the units looked the same. And apparently there's even a problem where they use key fobs. They don't use hard keys. They use electronic keys. And there's even been issues where people were walking into everybody's different apartments on accident. And they've been doing interviews of people that live in that complex where Amber Geiger lived. And there was one guy who said he is parked on the wrong floor in that complex a dozen times. And there's multiple people that are saying it's crazy. They can't tell. Well, this week, Botham Jean's family is now suing the apartment complex, saying that, the key fob issue, people were walking into different people's apartments, the floors weren't being properly marked, and everything looked too sterile, too similar, and it was causing a lot of drama. And it was so much issue, so many complaints that there's a possible legal culpability, and they may have to stroke a Botham Jean's family a big check. And I'm telling you that to tell you this: not too far from the old armory, because I went by it yesterday, I noticed there's one of those ant farm apartment complexes, and it's being repainted. Someone's got a big contract to paint the thing, but they're painting every building is a different color. Every building is a radically different color. It's not all the same color. The garage doors on each building they're offset. So they're not, it's not like black garage doors and different colors. It's the green building's getting light tan garage doors, and the blue building's getting black garage doors. And somebody has really made an effort here to pick colors and coordinate. And apartment complexes don't do this. They don't care. And I can't help but wonder if someone out there works in the apartment industry or the whatever you call that industry, is this gone out? Is there an issue here, a liability issue, where they're having problems with people being confused and walking into the wrong apartments or wrong places or getting lost, or is there a growing lawsuit coming in that industry? It was bizarre.
The apartment complex that's being painted right now that you're talking about could be owned by the same parent company as a place in Texas.
Could be. Or you know what? Maybe they got a gay guy who's the manager, and he's like, girl needs a little color in her life. So he's like, hey, you never know. Correlation doesn't mean causation. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things
Did you see the reason why they gave the Dallas police chief for her termination?
I think she resigned.
Resigned, quit, you're going to go, whatever. But did you see?
Oh, were they actually trying to fire
some city
her?
council people were on her about the way that she had her officers stop the rioting and looting. And her answer was, I was not going to let downtown burn. Well, that didn't sit well with some of the liberals on the Dallas City Council. That's why they were making the push to get rid of her.
You know what? On the same, on kind of like on the same lines as that, there's never any spike in the Rona where in towns where they riot. You know, Portland, for days, there's been no spike in the coronavirus. However, I heard the other day that this year at Sturgis, when the bikers ran the small presence of Antifa people out of Sturgis, now North Dakota's spike in the coronavirus is because of Sturgis.
Well, actually, somebody came out and said it's been beyond 2 weeks in Sturgis, and there hasn't been a big giant spike nationwide in coronavirus. But somebody came out when this was all happening, and they calculated Sturgis, like the number of people, and then the number of people who'd be infected. They'd all infect each other. So they would go home and they would infect at least one other person. And a news agency actually ran with this story and said the Sturgis bike rally is going to cost the United States $12 billion in medical fees, in medical charges because of the corona outbreak. And it's like you people have lost your mind.
That they have.
Yep.
I mean, it's like you know, there's freaking riots everywhere. You know, these people are all up in each other's business. You know, never mind, Sturgis takes place outside.
Well, you know, Sturgis is going to cost $12 million in medical fees, but yet $12 billion.
Yeah.
What is it? Kelowna? Up by you, Danny, the place where that guy was shot.
Kenosha
just filed for government aid because the rioting down there cost $50 million worth of damage to downtown Kenosha.
There's no $50 million worth of Kenosha property.
That's what they're claiming, $50 million worth of damage in downtown Kenosha. That's all that I heard on the report.
And you know what I'm wondering? The people that filed for the federal aid, would that be the same governor and mayor that told Trump not to show up?
Probably.
Talk about hypocrites. Oh.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, okay. I guess we got two more things, and we've been going for almost an hour. So as far as this is still politics, and we'll get out of it. So all we heard for, I don't know, at least 2 years was this. What's Cohen? What's Trump's former lawyer in
Michael Cohen.
Trump's former lawyer in Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen they're going to bring Trump down. Michael Cohen's going to squeal. Michael Cohen's going to testify. Michael Cohen, his book's coming out. All of this stuff, Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels, like all we heard just nonstop. Just like, this is it. This is finally it. We're going to get him. So now Michael Cohen's book is coming out. And Michael Cohen, I guess, is out of jail for a hot minute. And apparently, Michael Cohen has released. He recorded all of these conversations that he had with all of these people. He's released conversations with the guy from CNN. He's got, and all these people now that have been rooting
with the manufactured
Chris
questions.
Cuomo. Yeah, and it's like, okay, boy, you better be careful what you wish for, because now you're getting it. And this guy was Mr. Fuck You Black Book guy, and he did business the way I know a lot of people do business. You're gonna screw me, I'm gonna screw you. So I'm gonna keep all this dirt on everybody. And so apparently he's releasing the dirt. And so the argument is, because remember, like when it was reported that the feds or New York or somebody was raiding Michael Cohen's office, and like literally CNN and MSNBC and all these New York liberals were all harping like, yay, this is good. This is it. It's over. It's over, the feds. And it's like, now people are wondering, is Michael Cohen releasing these audio tapes, or is somebody in the Trump administration, since this stuff is now in government hands, releasing this stuff? Because that is the defense that the liberals now want to use, that this isn't Cohen releasing this. This is Trump abusing Department of Justice power. And it's just like, you guys are insane.
So they're ignoring the dirt and blaming the broom.
What is it? Don't shoot the messenger for the message?
I mean, shit. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. So
anything I said in these released messages are null and void because Trump's abusing his power by releasing them. It's like,
well, it's like lawyers when you read contracts, jointly and severably, just because if you break one thing in this contract doesn't break the whole contract. Like everything's written to the benefit of the lawyer who's writing the contract, not for the guy who has to sign it. And it's like, it's just funny how it always falls that way. So let me give everybody a warning. I'm now getting off the highway, and I am not 100% confident that we're going to have strong signal. So we're going to go ahead and get through a few of these things real quick, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So I guess I'll say this publicly because we posted a picture on it. And Freeze, I know you haven't seen it yet, but Wilson Combat has sent us another 1911. I asked them if they had a single stack version of the gun that I'm carrying because I'm so impressed by it. I'm like, Chris, you got a single stack version, and they do not, but they have a gun they call the EXperior, and I'm not going to go into all of it here, but we've been shooting it now for 2 or 3 days, and it runs really good. I mean, there's been no issues, and it being a more traditional 1911 as opposed to the non-traditional one that I'm carrying, I'm
sure it
impressed.
doesn't. I'm sure it doesn't shoot near as well as my missing 1911.
We have not found your 1911. But in all fairness, I haven't looked for it. So, I'm sure the Wilson EXperior single stack 9mm was probably a $3,800 gun. Doesn't shoot as well as your Rock Island 299.
Okay. In all fairness, it wasn't $299, but
hey, we got you a discount. It was $299.
No, it wasn't. That was a trade deal.
What did it end up costing you
$100
with the trade? $100. So it was $100 gun. Yeah. It was $100.
I had to throw a fucking Glock in there to boot. So it was a Glock plus a hundo.
Mark.
Who paid for the hundo? Where did the hundo come from? I think did that.
Hey, Marky, do you have a Beretta 92? Or is that with Freeze's gun? His 1911?
I had my first.
No,
had one.
I don't think we have a current 92. We've got like what is that? A 52, which is like the predecessor of the 92.
Yeah, we've got an Egyptian Helwan, which is like a pre-copy of the 92. I had a 92 that I got many years ago from a diplomatic security services officer from the State Department, and I got this back in the 90s when no one knew what the hell a DSS agent was, but that got stolen.
Well, no, the reason I'm asking I got a bunch of guns stolen. Thanks for sending me that information on what a decocker was.
Oh yeah, Danny was wanting to know how decocker worked. What is that? And thinking it has something with the fluff girl and a porn business. I was like, no, decocker is something so you don't have to touch your own hammer and possibly I'm digging a hole. I better stop. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up with obviously the police blotter story, and we're gonna circle back to a story that we covered in the past, and it made national news. There was some girls, I think at the DNC or outside the DNC. Yep. They were young girls. I believe they were women of color. I don't know what color they were.
No, they were black. They were white girls.
They were not. I think one girl maybe. Well, were they white?
Yeah, I think they were. I mean, one could have been maybe Latina or maybe mixed. I mean, I'm not. Yeah. But it wasn't like two black chicks.
Yeah, it wasn't two black chicks. So anyway, like this little, like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, they steal this boy's MAGA hat, President Trump, Make America Great Again hat. And it was video and people, like almost assault and all this stuff. Well, I guess everybody's gotten involved in this, and they're charging these two girls with a hate crime.
Good.
Yep.
And I was like,
they're both
shit.
looking at, I forget, I read the article, I forget how many years, but it's like 7 to 10 years or something like that. One's like 19, one's 20, I think. I could have the ages wrong, but they're young. I mean, they're adult. But...
So I hate to ask this, but I guess I would mean a hate crime is a felony, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I guess. Has to be.
Yeah. They're being charged with felonies.
For that many
absolutely.
Years.
And here's the thing.
Wow. And it's just like
these are hard lessons learned by kids who have never ever been held accountable for their actions. Now, do I think they'll go to jail for 10 years? No, I don't. They'll work something out. Yeah. They'll get the charges will get reduced. I mean, I'd bet on that. But here's the thing.
It's just a plea bargain to get a heavier sentence.
Sure, but here's the thing. You've got two girls in their early 20s that have never had to be held accountable for anything. And they felt it was okay to steal and push down he was like 11 kid, steal their shit. They ripped up their signs, and it was all caught on video. And I'm sure these girls thought, ha, I've done all this shit all my life and never had to account for it. It's all good because Trump sucks and Biden rules. And if you support Trump, you're a misogynist and a rapist and a hater and throw whatever other insults you hear about Trump supporters in there. But now the real world is crushing them like a fucking bug. And I'm happy for it.
Well, see, that's the question. Yeah, I mean, look, hate crime, the hate crime thing, I know there's an argument against the hate crime. Like, for example, if somebody commits murder, it's like, well, it's also a hate crime. Like, we're going to charge you with a hate crime as well. It's like, well, it's murder. I mean, but, I wonder, I can't help but wonder. Like, look, I don't know these girls. Like, I assume they're probably little, miscreants, but I can't help but feel that people like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and CNN and, all these, insert your favorite talking head liberal, whether they're on Twitter or on television, basically telling young people that it's okay to assault these people because we believe they're Nazis. And they've dehumanized. They can't win the political argument. So all these people that know better have dehumanized Republicans to the point that they've made them into this thing that you have no sympathy for. And now you've got young kids that don't really understand that this is all hyperbolic bullshit political speech. And, they might go to jail for it. Because, you told young 20-year-olds that they can do stuff. Let them believe that, you can do stuff
and
like
one more quick note to that. When they don't get their way, how many of them resort to violence? And then they wonder when they get knocked on their ass and their teeth are in the back of their throat.
Or like Commander Red we talked about in the last episode. He's like got caught with a flamethrower. He's Mr. Billy Badass on the internet, communist. And as soon as they arrest him for having a flamethrower and whatever, he doesn't he's not down for the cause with the proletariat with the fist in the air. He's in his fetal position crying for his mommy. It's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, it's like, I mean, I feel bad. This is why it's this kind of stuff that I feel like there's going to be a decade or more of a lot of extreme violence like there was in the 70s, because you've got a bunch of kids that have been mal-educated by the media and by schools, and they don't know any better. And we're going to spend a decade in law enforcement. Like, you know what? Think about this. And we'll end it on this note. There was a cop and he was very famous. His name was Jim Cirillo. And he most of his career was in the 70s and the 80s, late 60s. But Jim Cirillo, he was known as a cop that had been in a lot of gunfights. And he was considered an expert on how to win gunfights because he was in all of these gun battles when he was a cop in New York. And the reason he was in all these gun battles was because of all the degradation of the social order from the 60s into the 70s and all the violence that took place. Like, we talked about the Weather Underground and Barack Obama's buddies, and like they were setting off bombs and killing people, and the Black Panthers and all this crazy bullshit. If you're a young police officer today, like you've been on the force for a year, and you want to see a lot of action, and you want to go down as one of the greatest cops that ever lived, go join a major metropolitan police department for the next 10 or 15 years, because you may get your wish. Because
I agree.
Yeah, I mean it's like you're going to see a lot of action because it's going to be the brave few cops that rise to the occasion. History is going to choose you guys because history is going to turn against these commies. And I look at patterns and I'm looking at this and I feel like it's 1968 and we're looking at that 10, 12 years of this, and go get it, young man. If that's what you want, your young lady.
Yeah, all I know is the whole thing with the okay. Right now we're on the defunding the police and police chiefs are getting fired and all that stuff, but that will rotate around. But I mean, right now we're looking at police departments across the country going through major radical changes. I mean, look, I know these crazy wackadoos want to get rid of all the cops and have social workers go out there, but that's not realistic, and that's not going to happen. But I'll tell you what.
Don't say that. Yeah. Oakland voted for that.
Well, no, it'll happen, but it won't last. I mean, just like what's going to end up happening is if you see, like you look at a city, like let's say you look at a video of a riot in a major metropolitan city. And let's say you see 2,000 people rioting because they're commies and they're rioting and they're literally rioting and looting, but they're the radicals, not the people stealing TVs and going back to their house. We're going to spend the next 10 or 12 years running those people to the ground and putting them in jail or putting them in the graveyard because those people are not going to accept when the backlash happens that we're done with this.
I agree. People are fed up.
Yeah. And there's going to be opportunities. Like there's going to be a lot of action. So anyway, you know what? We've gone long. So this wraps up episode 187 of the John1911 Podcast. If you want to see any stories, pictures, or links of anything we discussed, you just go to our website, John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody,
see you later.
Bye-bye, and it's night.
Yes, it is. Good night, boys.